Okay, now we're going to do the Mastery Problem 2-5. It's on page 47 and 48 in your textbook. The chart of accounts I've gone ahead and put up here that we're going to use. They're on page 47, and the actual transactions are on page 48. And the layout of this problem is how the problem on your test is going to be set up. So the first transaction is received cash from owner as an investment. Now we receive cash from owner as an investment. The cash is going to increase with a debit, and the owner's capital account is going to increase with a credit. And we need to write a 1 in parentheses because that's the date of the transaction. So we're going to have a debit of $2,700, and we're going to have a credit under the capital account of $2,700. We're going to put a 1 out next to it. And on the second, we paid cash for rent. So our cash is going to decrease on the second. We're going to decrease it with a credit. I'm going to put a 2 out next to that. And our rent expense is going to increase with a debit. So next to under rent expense, we're going to put a 2 in parentheses for the date. And we're going to put a debit of $500. On the 4th, we paid cash for supplies. Our cash is going to decrease with a credit, so we're going to credit cash $300 and put a 4 in parentheses next to it. And our supplies are going to increase with a debit, so we're going to debit supplies $300. We have another transaction on the 4th. We received cash from sales, $850. So our cash is going to increase on the 4th, increase with a debit, $850, and our sales are going to increase with a credit, $850 on the 4th. On the 5th, we paid cash for insurance. So the two accounts that are affected are cash and prepaid insurance. Our cash is going to decrease by $275, and that is going to be on the 5th. And our prepaid insurance is going to increase by $275, and that is going to be on the 5th. On the 8th, sold services on account to Alston Golf, $700. If you see the phrase sold services, it means that we have sales. So we're going to have sales of $700, and that is on the 8th. And the amount of accounts receivable for Alston Golf is going to increase by $700. His balance is going to increase, so we're going to increase that accounts receivable with a debit. On the 9th, we bought supplies on account from Bethany Supplies, $200. So our supplies are going to increase with a debit, and the amount of money that we owe Bethany Supplies is going to increase with a credit, and that's going to be on the 9th. On the 10th, we paid cash for repairs. The two accounts that are affected are going to be cash and repairs expense. Our cash is going to decrease with a credit, $75, and that is on the 10th. And our repairs expense is going to increase with a debit, $75. On the 11th, we received cash from owner as an investment, $1,900. So our cash is going to increase on the 11th by $1,900. And our capital account, Vicki Land's capital, is going to increase on the 11th, $1,900. We have another transaction on the 11th, receive cash from sales. Our cash is going to increase with a debit by $900. And our sales are going to increase by $900 on the 11th. On the 12th, we bought supplies on account from North End Supplies, $130. So our supplies are going to increase on the 12th by $130. And the amount of money that we owe North End Supplies is going to increase. So the account that we have to pay North End Supplies is going to increase by $130 on the 12th. On the 13th, we received cash on account from Alston Golf. So he has now paid, I assume Alston's a guy, he's now paid us $500. So our cash is going to increase by $500 on the 13th. And Alston Golf's account is going to decrease. So we're going to decrease that with a credit on the 13th. On the 15th, we paid cash for miscellaneous expense, $25. So our cash is going to be credited $25 because it's going to go down on the 15th. And miscellaneous expense is going to increase on the 15th with a debit of $25. On the 16th, we paid cash on account to Bethany Supply. So we're paying Bethany Supply some of the money that we owe them. So our cash is going to decrease with a credit of $50 on the 16th. And the amount of money that we owe Bethany Supply, our account payable to Bethany Supply, is also going to decrease on the 16th, and we're going to decrease that with a debit of $50. It barely came in there, $50. On the 22nd, we paid cash for an electric bill. That's utilities expense, $55. So on the 22nd, we have a credit of $55. I'm running out of room here on cash on the 22nd. Our utilities expense is going to increase with a debit on the 22nd, $55. On the 23rd, we paid cash for advertising. That's going to be an advertising expense, and it is $95. So we have a $95 credit on the 23rd. And we have advertising expense. I abbreviated that ADV on the 23rd. This is advertising expense of $95. On the 25th, we sold services on account to Josie Levison. So we see that phrase sold services. We know we have sales of $450 on the 25th. So we're going to increase our sales with a credit on the 25th. Notice every entry in sales is a credit. If you are glancing over your problem and you see a debit in sales, something is wrong. All entries in sales should be credits. And Josie Levison now owes us $450, so we're going to increase Josie Levison's accounts receivable on the 25th, $450 with a debit. Now we paid cash to owner for personal use, $400. So we know the company's cash is going to go down. We're going to try and squeeze it in here, $400. $400 credit to cash, and that is on the 26th. And if we pay cash to the owner for personal use, we know we have to put a transaction. We've got to put an entry in Vicki Land's drawing account. So we're going to have a $400 on the 26th debit to Vicki Land's drawing account. Our last transaction is on the 30th, and we received cash on account, $200 from Josie Levison. So on the 30th, our cash went up. We're going to increase our cash with a debit of $200. And Josie Levison has paid us some of the money that she owes us. So we're going to reduce her balance with a credit because you decrease an account receivable with a credit. And that is on the 30th. Now, you need to make certain that you add up all of your debits and make certain that they equal the sum of all of your debits equals the sum of all of your credits. And once you've done that, then you should be good. So that was Mastery Problem 2.5 on page 47 and 48 in your textbook.